Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United news and transfer news show, as well as updates upon the Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho situation. Ruben Amorim's broken silence on Marcus Rashford and his future. Over the last week, there's been multiple reports of Marcus Rashford leaving Manchester United, and last night he came out and said that he will seek a new challenge. But I have to say, Amorim responded to that very, very well. We're going to talk about Amorim's response to that. There is reports coming out that if Rashford leaves, Manchester United have already decided upon their replacement. Manchester United already have a replacement planned for Rashford's exit. If he does leave, Ruben Amorim again speaks in more detail about Rashford. We've got news on Cunha, Nico Williams, Nuno Mendes, and Nypan all being linked to Manchester United ahead of the January window. We're going to give you all the latest transfer news. The Telegraph, again, writing another hit piece on Rashford, saying that, and there's people out there saying his bit with Henry Winter is PR. I mean, I feel like, I think you can have the opinion Rashford needs to go, Rashford needs to stay, and I think you're valid in that opinion. And you can say he's not been good enough, but I feel like he can't do anything right with some people. There's people generally like, oh, this is a load of PR from him. I don't think it is. He's been attacked by 8 or 9 different media sources in the last week. When Grealish, nothing. Foden's craps, he's a nothing. And he's just come out and said, maybe the time is right, he'll seek a new challenge. He doesn't want his United career to get any worse and become stale and be one of those players where it just goes stale when he stays here too long. And I don't think that's PR. He likes to help kids. He loves Manchester United. I don't think it's PR, but people, again, Telegraph going on Rashford and his character and stuff. And I think Henry Winter's piece yesterday was proper journalism. No matter how you feel about Rashford, Henry Winter's piece last night was proper journalism. It wasn't agenda-driven. It wasn't about getting the clicks. It was, this is the situation on Rashford. This is what he does. He knows he's not in the best form. He's open to a new challenge. And I think it was presented very, very well. I do. And I think there's been a lot of this. I think in mainstream media, there's too many agendas put into media. I think, a lot of people don't like Rashford, but don't let that impact your journalism. Write a genuine report that isn't filled with agenda-driven crap. And I think Henry Winter made a report about Rashford leaving, got inside information, and laid it out very well. It wasn't about agendas. It wasn't about clicks as well. And I think that's the way that journalists has got to be. We've got Garnacho having interest from Spain, talks of a Garnacho exit, and Ruben Amorim potentially open to that because Garnacho is not seen as a fit for the 10 role. And there's a few other transfer news and stories going about. But we're going to dive back into a recap of last night. This will only take 30 seconds. And then we're going to get into the news coming out today. But guys, if you do enjoy today's video, please do go ahead and hit that like button. And also big love to everybody, as we're only 230 subscribers away from the 100k mark. But this is what was said. Marcus Rashford speaks on his future. For me personally, I'm ready for a new challenge and the next step. When I leave, it's going to be no hard feelings. You're not going to have any negative comments from me about Manchester United. That's me as a person. But he says when he leaves, he's not going to be negative about United, but he feels he's ready for the next challenge. Now, you could say the next challenge could be seen as just playing under Ruben Amorim, but I think everybody knows he was potentially getting at next challenge probably being another club. I think what Rashford was almost trying to say is he gets the feeling, and I think this is the way I debunk what Rashford was saying in the interview. He gets the feeling his time could be up at Manchester United. He doesn't want to make it any worse. He doesn't want to, get worse in terms of how the fans view him. He doesn't want to end on an all-time low. He'd rather leave now while he can recover his career and save his career. And if he's got the feelings that he's probably not fully in United's plans when he's hearing reports all week that Ineos want him gone, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Ratcliffe has sort of pushed maybe his sale for FFP reasons. I think Rashford sort of said, not 100% wanted by Ineos, not going right for me at United. I think Rashford's probably thinks, this could be the best time for me to leave. That's how I see his interview as well. So can you answer my question, Alice? Cunha's another Xerxes? No, Cunha's Premier League proven unlike Xerxes, but profile-wise, similar players. But Cunha, yeah. This new challenge stuff is exactly what Pogba said one summer. Once that's out there, it's hard to continue at the club. Exactly. I mean, look, I think with Rashford, though, it's very much like, I think there's a lot of reports all week that Man United want to sell Rashford. Whereas I think with Pogba, it was more Pogba wanting to leave than Man United wanting to sell him. Whereas with Rashford, It's more now that the club want to sell him, but does Rashford want to leave? And I think now there's lots of reports that the club wants to sell Rashford. Rashford's come out and said, well, actually, I'm looking at a new challenge as well. I like Marcus Rashford. I think there's a really good player in Marcus Rashford. And I think, he gets too much stick and too much negativity. But I think, maybe if he can't get back in form under Amorim between now and the end of the season, I think leaving would be the right decision for him and his career, because it's not going his way. But I think he's a good player, but he's just not been that player for over a year. And if he's not been that player for a while, as much as I loved the player that Marcus Rashford was in, Ollie's seasons, in Ten Hag's first season, if he's not been that player for 18 months and he doesn't look like he's going to become that player again because even versus Victoria Pleasant he can't take on his man, that's when someone like me, who likes Rashford and would want him to stay and turn his career around, says maybe he's got to leave for his own good. Life goes on, he'll be fine. So we've sold the proper legends and greats in their prime. True. I mean, we've sold bigger and better players, absolutely, and stuff as well. But let's continue on to the next story. So we're going to dive more into the transfer news. We're going to dive more into the rumours going about. So Cunha today was seen liking a comment on his recent Instagram that said Manchester United soon. Again, don't read too much into it. Cunha was spotted in the summer basically saying his dream would be Manchester United. He didn't say his dream would be United, but there was videos of Cunha sort of hinting at United in the summer and how he wouldn't say no. Cunha's dream club apparently has always been Manchester United. He's always played into that. He's been linked to us with Rashford leaving, with needing a left 10. You get that with Cunha. Good player Cunha, would take him at Manchester United. Absolutely, Cunha liking stuff about being at Manchester United, blah, blah, blah. Man United are interested in the player, but I'm going to say this now. Wolves are in a relegation battle. Wolves are not going to sell their best player in January. They're not. If you're in a relegation battle, you're not going to sell your best player in January unless they get big money. The only way I can see Cunha going is if we're willing to give them 70, 80 million and they can spend that 70, 80 million fixing their defence. Because Wolves' issue is not scoring goals. They've got some good attackers. It's the defending. It's the mistakes in them. João Gomez and Andre are good. Lamina is good. Cunha is good. Aït-Nouri is good, but they need some good centre-back. Because I know Mosquera's got injured or something. I don't see Cunha happening in January, but I think Cunha would be very open to the Manchester United move as well. Someone said, do you think Garnacho could go? I don't think Garnacho will leave. I think we've got to think about it. I think Antony will go, and I think Rashford could go. I think if Rashford all of a sudden went on a run and let's say scores 20 goals in his next 10 games, I think Rashford stays. But I think Antony will go, and I think Rashford could go in 2025, which makes me think that Garnacho will not go until 2026 if things aren't going to plan under Amorim. I'm going to get into the stories of Garnacho leaving, but if we know that the club are thinking of getting Antony and Rashford out in 2025, I don't think they can afford to get Garnacho out because that's 3 wingers in one window. That would be very difficult to do, especially when we need a left wing back, a centre back, another midfielder, among more as well. Do you like Garnacho? I do like Garnacho. There's elements of his game he needs to improve. There's elements of games he needs to get better at, but that is quite normal at his age, and I'm sure he will develop into a good player if coached properly. I think there's the good player in Garnacho. 100%. I think with Garnacho, he's not been at his very best lately. There's question marks around how he fits Amorim's system. For me, with Garnacho, it isn't about his ability, it's about how he fits in Amorim's system. I think if we manage Garnacho's minutes well and we're patient with him and he develops certain parts of his game, he can be a top player. He's potential, he's raw, and people got to forget he's only just turned 20, Garnacho. He needs to look up when he's running. I agree with that comment there down below. He needs to get his head up. I think football IQ needs to improve. If you gave Garnacho Ahmad's football IQ, there's a player there. He needs to learn from Ahmad in terms of decision-making and football IQ, but he's so young, Garnacho, he can still learn. My biggest worry with Garnacho is I don't know if he suits Amorim's system. I don't know if he would be a left 10. I don't know if he would suit that role. And then maybe United would look at moving him on because he might be better suited to being a traditional winger in a 4-3-3, which is what Rashford's more suited to. So there's always concerns there, but again, I think the Garnacho hate's kind of a bit over the top lately. So who are United's ideal replacements for Rashford? So obviously we're speaking about Cunha. Cunha is one of them. It was also said that Manchester United want to replace Marcus Rashford with Atletico Bilbao superstar Nico Williams. Williams has a 48 million release clause, which means he's surely one of the more affordable options on the market. Now, I like Nico Williams. I'd like Nico Williams at Manchester United. £48 million release clause. Very good value for money. Again, I think Nico Williams is more of a touchline winger than someone that would be better in the left-hand role. I think there's players out there that profile-wise could be suited to that. But if you're thinking like-for-like replacement for Rashford, Nico Williams is probably that guy. But he's got similarities to Garnacho, not in the sense that he's better than Garnacho, but I think he'd be better suited to a front three rather than a left-hand role. But I do really like Nico Williams. I think he's a very good player, but I think he's more winger than I could play left 10. Elise could play right 10, Cole Palmer could play right 10, Kulusevski could play right 10, Ahmad could play right 10, but Anthony he's a touchline winger, so he's better at wing back in the system. For me, Nico Williams, I think he wants Barcelona. I think he's going to stay in Spain. Would I like Nico Williams at Manchester United? Yes, but this time in summer, I was begging for Nico Williams. I was saying, if we can't get Elise, we've got to get Nico Williams. I was begging it because of Ten Hag front three. We didn't get Nico Williams. Don't 100% know if he would be. I think he's more of a winger than a 10. I think Kvaratskhelia is someone put in there. Yeah, he'd be better as a left 10. And as David said, we need more of a central winger. Kvaratskhelia could do it. Rodrigo could do it. The perfect player would be Cole Palmer. But we've got Ahmad for right 10, and Cole Palmer would be a right 10. But Musiala, Cole Palmer. If we're talking Dreamland, Musiala, Cole Palmer in the 10s. Chokerez up top. Bruno Guimaraes, in the midfield pivot. But we've got to be realistic. Eze, do you know what? Eze is the same age as Marcus Rashford, is having a worse season than Marcus Rashford, has a worse injury record than Marcus Rashford, and has been out of form all season. Is he more suited to the left-hand role than Marcus Rashford because he's more of a central winger? Yes. But has Eze been any good? No. Eze's been crap this season. He's the same age as Rashford, more injury prone. You might as well keep Rashford, generally. I wouldn't bring Eze in. Big up everybody, by the way. We are 30 subscribers away from 99.8k, which is crazy to think. So big up for everybody that's shown support to the channel as well. The perfect players, Kvaratskhelia, he's great at finding spaces for teammates, pairing with Theo at left wing back and United Unstoppable. I think there's so many good left wing back options out there. It doesn't have to be Theo, but I think Kvaratskhelia for left wing back is massive. But hear me out. I take the mick out of Grealish for not scoring any goals, this and that. But I actually think he's better suited to Amorim's system than Pep's system. I actually think Grealish would do better at Man United than he's doing at Man City. Musiala is the dream, but you've got to be realistic. And Diego says not my Eze. I mean, I think he could work, but I just think he's been out of form for a bit. Elise is who I really wanted. Elise would have been the dream. Elise, Cole Palmer. I mean, buying of Elise and Musiala, Musiala left 10, Elise right 10. Amazing stuff. So these were my top 4 picks anyway. And people say they aren't realistic. And the point is, we're Manchester United, we're Ineos. If Ineos want to be ruthless and get rid of Rashford and raise the standards, you got to go big. Do I think we'll get Kvaratskhelia? No, he will cost a fortune. Napoli will make it mission impossible. Do I think we can get Rodrigo? Probably not, but I think he could be open to Real Madrid exit because of the whole Mbappe and Vinicius first choice. And I think Rodrigo plays better on the left. Hear me out with that. Cunha, I think we can get. I think he's desperate to join United. Musiala, I don't see us getting him. I think I could see him playing in England. And I think if we had a really good season under Ruben Amorim in 2025, 2026, I think he could come to us in 2 years' time because he would see something there. But look, it's not realistic, but they would be my 4 picks. If we're thinking left hand to replace Marcus Rashford, Kvaratskhelia, Rodrigo, Musiala are my top 3. There's no doubt in my mind that they are my top 3. But put Cunha there, João Pedro, Xavi Simons could do a job. A couple of players that we mentioned earlier, gutted Elise slipped through the fingers as well. I mean, Musiala, just imagine Musiala. The things I would do for Musiala as well. Nico Williams as well. With Nico Williams, the reason I didn't put him there is he wants like 400 grand a week as well, which is ridiculous. If we're getting Rashford out because of wages, that's just going to be filled with Nico Williams as well. Chokerez and Musiala, add that to United squad. People said Rashford's not leaving. Look, Rashford might not leave. We're going to get into the quotes. I'm someone that likes Rashford. I'm someone that's, bigs up Rashford a lot. And I think that there's a good player there. He's not been great for 18 months, but there's a good player there. He's not as bad as people make out online. And I really wanted to work for Marcus Rashford at United. I really wanted to work under Amorim. I really wanted to work for Rashford at United. He's one of my favourite players. But he might see it as it's better for him to leave his time is up. And I can understand that. And I think if Ineos with the wages, maybe putting pressure on Rashford's sale because of FFP, and Rashford knows things aren't going his way and he's still 27, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Rashford and has decided, you know what, it is time out. It's time out. I think people are saying he won't leave. I mean, he might not leave because of his wages. No one wants to pay him his wages. We don't get the bid. You know, there was a summer that Paul Pogba was going to leave, but actually we didn't really get any offers for Paul Pogba. So there's always kind of stuff like that. But I think that he could go. Tyler Dibling, Semenyo are players that I like, but I think to replace Rashford with Tyler Dibling would be very I like Tyler Dibling, but let's be honest. We've got to be realistic about who you replace Rashford with, because I know the internet like to make out that Rashford is rubbish, and I know he hasn't been great for a year, but he's nowhere near as bad as people make out. I think he's a top player if he can find himself again, and the problem is he might not find himself again at Man United, which is why the club now need to sell him. But if we're going to replace Rashford, we've got to be going for the Musialas, the Kvara's, Helliers, because we're Man United. You replace Rashford with Tyler Dibling. I mean, Semenyo I like. Eze isn't bad, but that's very underwhelming. If we want to close that gap, you need to look at the Musialas. Grealish should never went to City, was never a fit style-wise. Bit of a waste of talent there. Grealish, had he gone to Man United, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I think most of our players, had they gone to Manchester City, they'd be hailed as 10 times better than they are. I think if Bruno Fernandes had gone to Manchester City, we'd be talking about Bruno Fernandes as one of the best ever Premier League players, generally. But I think Grealish was always more suited to United. Always more suited to United as well. People saying Dibling would be better at right wing back. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what would happen there. I like Dibling, but I don't think it's a priority. He's a player that I really like, but it's like, oh, we've got Ahmad. Not a priority for me as well. Anthony Gordon, again, I think he's more like Rashford. He's more suited to playing wing than left-sided 10. To be honest, but let's dive into some stories as well. So we've got some stories on Nypan to Manchester United. According to Dean Jones, Manchester United have moved closer to signing Nypan from Rosenborg. Progress has been made on a deal for January, and there is increasing possibility that he will become Ruben Amorim's first signing. So we've been linked to Nypan a lot. We've been linked to him since the summer. I think we first got linked to him in maybe February. We obviously played Rosenborg in pre-season. Nypan was very impressive, and we continue to be linked to Nypan. I've always said this, in terms of January signing, if I had to predict one, I always said back from September, probably Nypan, because he's going to be available for a couple £1 million. He's a Man United fan. He wants to move. We've looked at him. We've had discussions with him. We were always going to wait till January when he was 18. He could play as a 10 in Amorim's system. He could play in the pivot. I think we could make a move for Nypan. Would I be butthurt if we missed out on Nypan? No. If we miss out on Nypan, it's not the end of the world. We've got Ahmad, we've got Bruno. He's not going to come in and start right away. He's going to be one that's going to be moulded in over the next 2-3 years. We've got players like Shea Lacey in the academy. Nypan for me isn't that we have to do that deal, but Nypan for me is a very incredible talent. This could be a player that, could be worth a lot more in years to come. This could be a very good player, a bit like when we signed Amad Diallo 4 years ago, and how Amad is now and how good he is now. I think Nypan could be a bit like that. He's 17, but I think in 3-4 years' time, we might be sitting with Nypan like we have Amad Diallo, being like, what a baller. And if Man United sign Nypan, I'm happy. If we miss out on him, it's not the end of the world for me, just because he doesn't come in and get right into that starting 11. And I want players to come in and get right in that starting 11. For me, if we went out and signed Kirkes, who goes right into that left wing back role, that's what I'd like to see in January, if I'm going to be honest. What about Isak? Would you take him at United? Absolutely. But I think he's going to be out of budget. Nypan would be a good signing, classy and versatile, and that's what I like about him as well. Mount and with Nypan as support, I mean, considering Mount's injury record, yeah, I mean, you never know. But 17, but when he turns 18, he can come to United. A bit like Diego Leon. When they turn 18, they can come to United as well. Transfer window opens in just 2 weeks. I think, yeah, and people have got to remember this. I think Ineos now that Dan Ashworth's been sacked, Bivol and Wilcox are working right now. Bivol and Wilcox are working together right now to discuss a plan for the January transfer window. And United want to be busy and want to do stuff as well. Someone said online hate is a toxic issue at our club. Wait till we get a meltdown. If Arsenal or Chelsea pitch up, they will pay his wages and fat feet. This was Rashford. I think if Rashford goes to Arsenal, that would hurt as well. Whoever we sign in that position needs to be best in class, 100%. I don't mind getting a Nypan for the future and a Diego Leon for the future, but we've got to sign a best in class left wing back and we've got to sign a best in class left 10. I think our right hand side, Yoro, Masraoui, Maino, Ahmad, very good. But our left hand side, we need a best in class left wing back and we need a best in class left 10. That's what we need as well. The thing with Rashford is you have to be more consistent, tends to blow hot and cold. Really only one top season, Erik ten Hag's first year, exactly, as well. Concerned about Amas opportunities given recent youth player joining in summer. Yeah, I mean, there is a few concerns over Harry Amas. Apparently, some feel that he's just not physically ready. He had some very good moments in pre-season. We saw how technically good he was in pre-season on the ball, but I think off the ball, out of possession, he'd get caught out a couple of times, but he's 17, so young. I think he needs a year to develop physically, is how United feel about Harry Amas. There is talk of sending him out on loan, but they do really rate him highly in terms of how good he's on the ball. Apparently, one of the reasons they let Alvaro go, who he might be bringing back, is because Harry Amas was viewed as being a better talent than Alvaro, and Alvaro's getting man of the match performances in the Champions League. So Harry Amas is rated highly, but there's concerns over physicality. United could bring back Alvaro. Do you know what's mad about Alvaro is it wasn't United that decided to sell him, it was Ten Hag. Apparently Ten Hag was the one that pushed for Alvaro to leave, which is ridiculous because he didn't have Shaw, he didn't have Malacia, and we'd let go of Reguilon, and Ten Hag just thought that Alvaro wasn't ready, which is crazy. Maybe Alvaro wouldn't have been as good if he was at United compared to Benfica, where he's in an easier league and he's getting moulded in a safer environment, but it was ridiculous because we played Lindelof at fullback for games last season. It was a joke. Alvaro would have done a better job. Always keen on young emerging talents with potential, but we do need some ready-made signings as well. Exactly. We've got Diego Leon, big fan of that, but we need a ready-made player. Kirkus to Liverpool's advancing expected to happen in January. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. You've got Tottenham that need a doggy backup because he's injured and dropped off. Liverpool need a long-term Robertson replacement, and then Man United need a left-back. I think for me, there's Robinson of Fulham, there's Kirkus of Bournemouth, and there's Aït-Nouri of Wolves. And I think Tottenham, Man United, and Liverpool are all looking at those three players for the left-back role, and it'll be interesting to see which one we get. For me, I think Anthony Robinson suits Liverpool best, and I think Kirkus suits Manchester United best because we play a back five, Liverpool play a back four, Robertson being replaced by Robinson, but Robinson's 28, so maybe Liverpool want Kirkus because he's younger, and I think Aït-Nouri works best at Spurs. To be honest, Dorgu could work really well at Spurs as well, but I think Spurs keep going for young players or maybe need someone a bit older. Robinson would be good for Tottenham as well. But I think there's 3 or 4 left backs out there that are good, but there's 3 or 4 clubs that want that left back. Big up everybody in the chat as well. We've got 700 people watching right now as well. Someone said no one's all about Garnacho's Puskar Award. We spoke about that yesterday. Someone's accused me of being negative about Rashford and not talking about Garnacho's Puskar Award, which means, sorry mate, but you don't watch my videos. If you know me, I defend Rashford probably more than anybody, and I get a lot of stick for defending Rashford. I've always stuck up for Rashford, always said I liked him, and I spoke about Garnacho's Puskar Award last night when he was awarded it, so I don't think you watch my content and you're just jumping to conclusions. Maino needs to speed up his game. His relaxed modus all the time, that's not what you need. You need a kid, hard head, who's forcing to be counted. I can understand where you're coming from, but I think Maino's misunderstood as a player. Maino isn't an off-the-ball machine like Agate. Maino was someone that's on the ball. He's got, he's not that monster that's going to get stuck in. He's kind of aesthetic. He's good on the ball. Maino, yeah, I think there's elements of his game off the ball he needs to improve in terms of he can't covering ground and stuff. But I think Maino paired with Agate, they complement each other quite well. And I think you've got to understand that Agate's never going to be unbelievable on the ball breaking lines, and Maino's never going to be this sort of N'Golo Kante type player off the ball. It's just, you can't do it all really. I mean, there's players that can, to be honest, but everybody's sort of a different profile of player as well. If Rashford goes, who replaces him? People are quick for him to go, but who should replace him? Well, as I said, I wouldn't replace him with Eze or anyone like that. Kvaratskhelia, Rodrigo, and Musiala are the only 3 players that I think that you replace Rashford are genuine upgrades. Cunha, I think, him at his best, maybe. But Kvaratskhelia, Rodrigo, and Musiala would be my 3 picks to replace Rashford because I think they would actually potentially be upgrades. Big up everybody watching right now. Big up for all the support as well in the chat. I am going to try and get through the live chat. I'm 28 subscribers away from 99.8k, which is absolutely crazy and mad to think about. So I do want to thank you all for all the support recently on the channel. It really does mean a lot as we're closing in on that 100k mark, which is, yeah, pretty crazy to think about. But I'm going to dive into the Nuno Mendes story. I want to then talk about what's been said by Amorim and Rashford. I just need to do one quick thing. Let me get that. Oof. Let me get this. But let's dive into the Nuno Mendes story. But I do, because we are 25 minutes into the stream and I haven't spoke about what Ruben Amorim's come out and said. I do want to get into that in a second as well. Mazraoui, right wing back. Mazraoui's done well at right wing back, left centre back, right centre back. He did well at left back. He did well at right back. Mazraoui seems to do well everywhere he plays as well. Maino's instincts are unreal for someone so young, exactly. I think, there's been criticism of Maino this season, and I thought he was really good in the Nottingham Forest game, and I thought he was unbelievable in the Manchester City game, and he's been injured. I don't get where the Maino criticism's coming from this season. I think the first couple of games he didn't look fully fit, but everyone was crap. It wasn't like Maino was bad. Like, everyone was bad. Got injured. A couple of people being reactionary, like making out that Maino's rubbish. I think he's been, like, the last 2 games, I think Maino's been excellent. I really do think Maino's been excellent the last 2 games as well. So, let's talk about Nuno Mendes. It was said that Manchester United remain highly interested in Nuno Mendes, while PSG want to extend his deal beyond 2026. No agreement is imminent. Mendes shares the same agency as Ruben Amorim, and United are keeping a close eye on the situation. So, news and reports coming out is that we're interested in Nuno Mendes. Obviously, worked with Amorim at Sporting Lisbon, and we're keeping a close eye on the situation. Man United need a left wing back. Nuno Mendes, Alphonso Davies, Hernandez, Kirkers, Aït-Nouri, Dorgu, Robinson, Loco, they're all going to be linked to United. There's a lot of good left backs out there, a lot of good left wing backs out there. I think Nuno Mendes, would he make the switch from PSG to Manchester United? I don't know. PSG are probably in a better position than Man United right now, but then the Premier League is a much better league than Ligue 1. He's worked with Ruben Amorim in the past. I think there's potential he could make that move to Manchester United, especially with his contract running a little bit low. We'll have to see, but obviously good player and been very good under Amorim before, so it could definitely be one to watch as well. Maino was just back from injury. Go easy on him. When I played football at school, when I got injured to my hamstring, it took me a couple months to brush the cobwebs off. Exactly. I think people forget he's coming back from injury. He was overplayed loads. I think there's elements of his game off the ball, positionally, ground coverage that, yeah, sure, he needs to improve. But I think there's just been weird amounts of stick directed towards Maino lately that's completely unfair when people forget he's just turned 19 as well. Like, so young, and people just forget that, which is sad. But continuing on, what else we've got on Nuno Mendes here is that United remain strongly interested in Nuno Mendes. PSG want to extend his contract. There's no plan for him to sign a new deal. So United could maybe swoop in there, and that Mendes and Theo Hernandez are currently 2 expensive preferred left-back options if Alphonso Davies extends his contract. So we're looking at Davies, we're looking at Hernandez, we're looking at Mendes, and obviously I know that we've looked at Kirkes and Aït-Nouri and Dorgu and a couple other players as well. There are quality players in our side that don't suit Amorim's style. Doesn't mean they are bad players and sell them cheaply. Do you know what? I agree. I think there's players at Manchester United, but I have question marks. I don't think Garnacho is a bad player. I like Garnacho. I think people have been very harsh on him lately. But there is questions whether he would be a left 10 and if he suits Amorim ball. Dalot is a good player. There's a reason Real Madrid are looking at him if they don't get Trent. But again, does Dalot suit the system? No. Dalot might be one of those players where you go, there's a good player there. If he stays at United another season and doesn't perform, his value is going to go down. Real Madrid are interested in Dalot. You have to look at it in many ways and say, yeah, Dalot might be one that goes because he doesn't suit the system. Garnacho might not suit the system. There are going to be players at United. Casemiro, Eriksen don't have the legs for the system that Man United may look to offload. If Maino can improve his long switches of play, would be even more dangerous. His close control and IQ in the ball was so good. I agree. He did that really good long switch versus City. That reminded me of Pogba's pass. If he can do more of that, it could honestly be amazing. 100 subs will be well deserved. Big up, guys. Again, only 25 subscribers away from 97.8k. So 225 subscribers away from 100k, which is crazy. So big up everybody watching and supporting the channel as well. Someone said, who's the most over-criticised Man United player? I think we're quite harsh on a lot of our players. I think we haven't been good enough and we're 13th and the standard needs to improve at United. But I also feel like a player could be really good for 4 months and then they'll have 3 bad games in a row and they're trash. Everyone online will think that player is trash. And it's like, well, let's be a bit more patient. Let's be a bit more patient. But let's talk about Rashford, because Amorim obviously has responded to everything that's gone on with Marcus Rashford. And Amorim has come out and said this on Marcus Rashford, on saying he needs a new challenge. He said, he is right. We have a new challenge, the biggest in football. We're in a difficult situation. I hope all my players are ready. I think Amorim answered these questions really well. He didn't want to make it about Rashford leaving. He didn't want to add more fuel to the fire on the media reports going on Rashford. He is just sort of, I think Rashford saying he needs a new challenge is Rashford saying he needs a change in environment. He maybe needs to get out of United. But Ruben Amorim is saying, yeah, there's a new challenge at United and he needs that new challenge under me. This is the new challenge. And I think Ruben Amorim answers that very, very well. Amorim said, what I want is to take the best of Marcus Rashford and the other players. I don't talk about the future, I talk about the present. He said, I want to bet the best of each of them. I just want to win and help the team to be better. We are better with Marcus Rashford. That is simple. We try our best to push Marcus Rashford to the level he is at before. If Marcus Rashford gets back to his best, Man United are better with Marcus Rashford. Ruben Amorim said that. Ruben Amorim saying there's a challenge at United and his job is to get the best out of Marcus Rashford. He then says, on Rashford and Garnacho, will they be back in the squad for the Spurs game? He says there's one more training session. It's the same as the other players. If they train well, I will make my choice. They will be back in the squad. We'll see at the end of training. I expect the best of each player every day, so we'll see after training. And Amorim was asked if he wants to keep Rashford, and he said, of course, because this kind of club needs big talents, and he is a big talent. So he just needs to perform at the highest level, and that is my goal. I want to help Rashford. He was then... And I'm going to quickly talk about this, and then I'm going to go into the dressing room issues and the leaks around Marcus Rashford and stuff as well. But Ruben Amorim has answered the interview very well. He said, Marcus Rashford is one of my best players. If he's at his best, I want him. I want to play him. I think Ruben Amorim's stance is very much like this. I'm going to give you my honest opinion on what I think the situation with Marcus Rashford is. So, I think Marcus Rashford has not been good enough at Manchester United the last 18 months when he's on 300 grand a week. His performances have been poor. He didn't even take on his man versus Victoria Pleasant. He looks a shadow of himself. Now, when Ruben Amorim first came into Manchester United, he said that Marcus Rashford has to want to be Marcus Rashford. And it doesn't look like he wants to be that electric Marcus Rashford that would win a game and run at players and be direct. He doesn't look like that. Now, Ineos have seen Marcus Rashford. They send 300 grand a week. They sacked Ashworth after 5 months. They're doing all the cost cutting. They need FFP. They need money. And they're thinking he's not been good enough. They don't want a Lingard situation. They don't want a Pogba situation where he'll just leave for free. There's an opportunity to get some money for Marcus Rashford. So Ineos, I think, have said Rashford's up on the market. Ruben Amorim said, well, I'd like Rashford, and I think Ruben Amorim said, but this is a challenge. Rashford's got to want to be Rashford again. I think Ruben Amorim's stance is this. If he doesn't see anything from Rashford between now and the end of the season, Rashford will be sold. I think Ineos, Ratcliffe are probably putting the pressure on Rashford being sold. But I think Ruben Amorim ideally would like the Rashford of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, of Ten Hag's first season at United. Because I think if Rashford got back to his best, he's a player that United would keep. And I think Ruben Amorim said it, Rashford's a big talent. I want Rashford. I want to help him. But at the end of the day, it's how he performs in training. It's how he performs on the pitch. And if he doesn't step up, I think he's gone. I think Ineos have probably said to Amorim, we're open to selling him. Amorim said, well, can't say no, he's not been good enough. But I think Amorim really just wants Rashford to be at his best, because if he is at his best, he benefits Amorim. That's the way I see it. And I think if he doesn't get back to his best, I think Amorim will say, yep, let him go. Amorim's not going to come out as manager and say, yep, I want Rashford to go. Yep, we've decided Rashford's leaving, because his job is to think, well, I need to get the best out of Rashford between now and the end of the season, regardless of if he's leaving or not. So he's not going to do that. I think Ruben Amorim's answered that very well. I think he has. And I think he'll handle it well. And I think that Rashford could, if he doesn't play well, will probably quietly leave at the end of the season. Absolutely love Amorim and how he's handled it. Yeah, I think he's handled it well. Basically, Amorim's saying it's up to him, but he's still at the club. He needs to deliver and he won't throw his players under the bus. Absolutely. I think Ruben Amorim handled the interview very well. And I think Ruben Amorim will know that if Rashford doesn't have a good season, I think Ruben Amorim will want Rashford out. But he's going to back Rashford publicly, have conversations privately, and I think he handles all of his interviews very well. Ruben Amorim was then asked if Rashford's comments will cause problems in the dressing room, and he said, "I think the Man United players are more simple than that. They focus on their job, everyone, all of the players. I was a player and we were a little bit selfish, so we're focused on their job to win a place in the team. I don't think it will impact the team." And, there's always people trying to make out that Rashford's the leaker or Rashford's causing problems in the dressing room, this and that. But anybody that knows what goes on inside Manchester United here, there, knows that Rashford's never been someone to cause dressing room problems. He's never been a leaker. That's one thing we've always known about Rashford is he doesn't leak. He doesn't cause dressing room issues. He's not really ever been one of those players as well. But yeah, let's continue on into the next story. Marcus Rashford said on reports questioning attitude and professionalism, he said, "These are rumours of lack of professionalism. I do feel misunderstood, but I'm fine with it. I'm a simple person. I love football. That's my life from the beginning." There are people making out that Rashford's the leak and he's not professional. There was the Belfast incident, of course, but I would say in the most part, he has often been a professional player that hasn't leaked, that hasn't caused issues. Even if he's not at his best, it's not that he's, affecting other people. And that's one thing that I've always been told about Marcus Rashford is he's always been a good egg in the dressing room. It was said that when Rashford signed his contract extension, a lot of promises were made regarding players United would bring in. Apparently, United told Rashford they were going to bring in Kane to make him better and do this and do that, and they didn't, which is what they did with Bruno as well. And there had been members of staff inside United briefing against Rashford, which is quite sad, to be honest. I think, you can think Rashford isn't good enough and you can think, yeah, let's sell Rashford in the summer. But for there to be staff inside United briefing against Rashford and there to be media reports on Marcus Rashford and his personality, but then the same journalist will then praise Jack Grealish for drinking, I think he's treated unfairly. There's been a mentality shift in Rashford compared to a few years ago, almost as if he's believing his own height, body language and levels don't seem the same. I think, I just think I like Rashford. I would love it to work out at United. I think he's a good player there. I think he's the scapegoat and I think he gets way too much abuse and I don't think he's as bad as people make out, but he's not been himself for a year and a half and this is Manchester United. The standards are high. And if he's not going to get back to being himself, you have to let him go for his own good. That's what I feel on him. That's how I feel on Rashford. So let's talk about the Garnacho rumours because there is talk of Garnacho going back to Spain. According to Net, Atletico Madrid are eager to bring back their youth products. The winger had started his career in Spain in the Spanish capital side before being poached by Manchester United in 2020. As the Spanish source explains, Diego Simeone dreams of an all-Argentine attacking trident that puts hits on son Giuliano alongside Garnacho and Julian Alvarez, who's made the switch from City. So this report, they worded it very badly, to be honest. I absolutely messed up saying that. But there is basically reports coming out from Spanish sites and Spanish news sites that basically Atletico Madrid are interested in bringing Garnacho back. Look, I've always said this. Garnacho wants Real Madrid. Garnacho's not at a level to go to Real Madrid. And if Real Madrid do come calling for Garnacho in 2-3 years' time, which people worry about, that's probably a good thing because that means he's probably a good player. But Garnacho is nowhere near Real Madrid level. We don't need to worry about Real Madrid. He may want to go back to Spain for sure, but he left Atletico for Manchester United. Atletico interested in bringing Garnacho back potentially. Julian Alvarez, Garnacho. But again, I don't see Garnacho leaving United. I think Antony and Rashford are more likely to leave Man United than someone than Garnacho. There's interest in Garnacho, but I think, and there's question marks if he's going to fit Amorim's system long term, but he's so young, he's so raw. I think if this time next year it's not working out, I think he could go. But I think with Garnacho, I don't think he's going anywhere. There's rumours of Atletico Madrid being interested in him, but Barcelona and Real Madrid aren't interested in him. I think that's where he'd want to go. I think Spanish sources, again, I think it's a bit of let's link Garnacho to the club. We need something to write about. Yeah, I don't see Garnacho happening. Although, to be fair, considering they paid 80 million for Julian Alvarez, if you stick an 80 million price tag on Garnacho and they're willing to pay that, as someone that rates Garnacho, let him go. But I think Garnacho's happy at United. There's always been rumours and talk of him going back to Spain, but I think he's happy at United. I think he'll stay at United, and I don't think there's much behind the reports of Atletico Madrid being interested in Garnacho. I don't think the club would let Garnacho and Rashford leave in the same window. So yeah, that's the news on Garnacho. But listen, everyone, big up to everybody that watched today's show. I've really enjoyed today's show. I've really enjoyed lots of people being involved in the chat and stuff. So big up everybody watching. We're also 20 subscribers away from 99.8k, which is absolutely crazy. Now I'm going to be back about 6 p.m. this evening, so I'll probably do a live stream about 6 p.m. this evening if any interesting news comes out, or maybe I'll just do a 10-minute news roundup video. So I will see you guys for that as well. But yeah, big up for everyone in the chat. There were some really good comments in the chat, and I apologize that I can't read out every live comment in the chat. The video would be a million hours long. But yeah, big up to everybody. I'll speak to you later. Bye.